Something beginners will often struggle with is learning how to know which fingers to use when playing piano. The misconception is that everything has a correct way to play it, but it's not as simple as that. It's really more about gaining quality experience of what some good finger options might be for different situations. Analysing why they're good options and how they're going to help you play something better or move around more comfortably or quicker or get the sound that you want. And there's often different ways of playing something that work well. There's an infinite amount of things that you could be playing on the piano and so many variables that would affect it that there's no real rules that are going to work for everything. But the more experience you have, the quicker and more naturally you're going to be able to make good finger choices, because you're building up a vocabulary of shapes that you recognize on the piano and how you're going to fit your hand into them and maneuver around. So in this video I've got loads of tips and things that you need to think about when you're making finger choices, and I think the best way to demonstrate some of those is just to give you a bunch of examples and show you my thinking as to how I'm getting from one point to another comfortably. So I'll talk about some basics and then give you those examples to show you what I'm doing, and then make sure to stick to the end because I've got some other really important tips and advice to help you get better at this. Let me know in the comments if choosing what fingers you're going to use to play is something that you've struggled with. This channel is your guide through developing all the different skills and knowledge you need to become a better piano player and musician. So if that's something you want to do, consider clicking the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything you need to learn. So first, make sure you know how we number fingers. So thumbs are 1 and then we go outwards 2, 3, 4, 5. Being aware and being in complete control of which finger you're going to use is really important at the beginning, but it can take a bit of time to develop that connection. If you need, you could practice this just by laying your fingers out on all the white notes from C, C, D, E, F, G, and then call out numbers or get someone else to call out numbers and try and play that finger as quick as you can. So 5, finger 5, 3, finger 3, 4, and so on. Try that with each hand separately and then try them together, and try not to look at what you're doing. Also, you could try some improvisation. Really, you're just improvising which fingers you're using at the moment, so don't worry about the sound, but try and make sure you're saying the finger number out loud. So 5, 5, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1. That'll just help you build up that connection between your mind and which finger you're using. When you're playing, make sure you actually make use of all your fingers, which may sound obvious, but a lot of beginners don't, or avoid the weaker ones. You need to train them all up, and making use of more fingers will often allow you to simplify things with less need for moving around. You'll get more comfortable playing, you'll become more versatile with what you can do, and you'll be able to play faster with more fingers as well. A really important concept to get used to is using finger blocks, where you assign a group of fingers to a group of notes. Sometimes your fingers may be spread out, but sometimes they may all be in a row. So when a melody or a big chunk of a melody takes place in a position where you can reach everything in one block, then stick in that block and don't move around unnecessarily. So for example, if I played this, each finger is assigned to one of these notes and none of them move. What you don't want to do is this. The first way is much simpler and far less confusing once you've got a good sense of control over your fingers. So choose fingers that can allow you to reach a bigger chunk of something. So to do that, you need to look ahead. So with that example, I knew I was going to use those 5 notes so I could place my hand in that position. Whereas if you weren't thinking ahead too much, I might put my thumb there, then I'd have to make a turn to that bottom C, which might not be that hard, but again, we're trying to simplify things where we can. But what would be really rubbish is if I knew I was going to go up those 3 notes, which is just the first part of that melody. I really wouldn't want to start on fingers 5 or 4, because then I haven't got enough fingers that side to run up to where I want to get to without making an awkward turn. Then sometimes you won't be able to reach everything in one finger block, so you need to divide it up cleverly into more than one. You should always be looking ahead to find these blocks and trying to think of multiple notes you're going to need in one go to get in a good position to get through everything. So a really good example of that is just what we do with scales. So with a C major scale, we're going to play from C to C, so that's 8 notes, and we're going to divide it up with fingers 1 to 3, and then fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we finish that first block on 3, that gives us a good point to turn to the second block. And then if we're going to repeat that over 2 octaves, we wouldn't want to use our 5th finger at the top, because that's not a good finger to turn to carry on. So we have this block of 3, and then a block of 4, and then we turn again and repeat the 3 and the 4. and then just use the fifth whenever we decide to reach the top. You can do this for more than 2 octaves. Sometimes people think you have to stick to those finger numbers you learn in scales when you're playing actual music, but you don't. Sometimes they do work well, but often you've come from somewhere else or you're going somewhere else, so it doesn't make sense to use them. But learning loads of scales and things like broken chords and arpeggios are going to be really useful for teaching you loads of clever ways to use your fingers for different kinds of shapes and patterns on the piano. So make sure you're doing those, but remember again, they're not set in stone. Sometimes if something else is going on in the music, you might have to adapt them a bit. Choosing fingers also depends on how your hand would mold naturally into the shape that the notes make. So for example, with F major, we wouldn't turn to our thumb. So it makes far more sense to put finger 4 there and then turn. You may have heard something before about not putting thumbs on black keys, and that's kind of for situations like that F major scale, but don't take that as a blanket rule because there's plenty of situations where it does make sense to put your thumb on a black key. Be aware of hand positioning too, or you may make a good finger choice feel like a bad one. If on the first 3 notes here, the hand was too far back, then I'd just be pulling the 4th finger away from the B flat, so I made sure to keep it forward to reach it comfortably. There's so many situations that your hand could end up in that you have to get good at adapting to new ones. Look at things that you're playing like a puzzle that needs solving. Don't be afraid to experiment with different ways of breaking up the notes and moving around differently and see what works best. Trial and error will be a really important learning curve for this kind of thing, and the more you do it, the better at it you're going to get. But also watch carefully what other players do if you're watching videos of people play. Ask your teacher or ask people on forums, things like that, because often more experienced players will have little tricks for specific things that you might not think of. The main thing beginners don't do is actually take the time to really think and analyze what fingers might work well and try different things out. But if you do take the time to do that and analyze stuff, you're going to progress much quicker. Sometimes when you're working stuff out, it may feel obvious and come quickly, and other times it may be a bit trickier and a clever solution may take a bit of figuring out. But it can actually be quite fun and satisfying once you come up with a good method. So like I say, it's impossible for me to give you something that's going to work for absolutely everything you encounter, but to get you thinking along the right lines so you can figure out your own solutions, I want to give you examples of a few things and how I would approach them. So let's start off with a classical melody. This is part of the B section from Minuet in G. So I'm starting off on finger 5 at the top, which is going to allow me to reach the first bit, and then I can just sort of move that block down like that whilst my thumb is here. Thumb's already here. I could have started like this and then moved down, but it just feels like a little bit more work. And then when my thumb's here as well, I'm in a good position to turn over to the C sharp, because I can pivot on that thumb. And then if I turn over with finger 3, then I've got these 2 fingers in a perfect position for this bit. So one maneuver flows perfectly into the next. But there's loads of other ways you could play that line. I think that's just a good solution. A lot of it really depends on where you've just come from or where you're going to next. So if I was to play this, then that looks absolutely perfect. But what if I need to go at the end? Then I would use these fingers so my thumb's free. But what if I needed to hit this E before I did any of that? Then I couldn't reach that in that hand block. So I'd have to move. So here, I'm going to push my second finger down, allowing me to get my thumb down there. So let's look at a chord progression next. People always wonder how to finger chords, and there's often loads of different ways. So if we look at this progression here, got a C to G, B flat to F. What fingers you choose for chords is going to really depend on where you've come from and where you're going to next. So with this first part, I've chosen fingers 1, 3 and 5. And that leaves 2 free to slot in for the next chord. The next chord already has this note in it, so that stays where it is. And the thumb is always a good finger to be able to jump down like that. And then the way I played the music there's a bit of a breath in between the first 2 chords and the second 2 chords. So there's a good opportunity to completely lift off my hand and reposition. And I'm going to do the same fingers again, 1, 3, 5 to 1, 2, 5. And the key to that is really keeping your hand nice and relaxed so it can remold into new shapes comfortably. And how you position your hand. So for example, with the B flat, I brought my hand forward to reach everything. But let's say instead of just going, I wanted to do this. with one hand. Then instead of 1, 3, 5, I choose 1, 2, 4, allowing my 5th finger to be free up here. Because I can still reach that G with 1, 2, and 4 instead of 1, 2, and 5. So if I was to play this bebop line, the first part climbs up in thirds from F. So there I'm going to make sure I start on my bottom finger so I've got enough fingers to reach up. I'm not going to use 4 at the top because that's overstretching these 2 fingers. That feels comfortable. Now here, it feels comfortable to put my 4th finger down there, and then I could put my 2nd here. But then the next bit I need to go, but now I've got to put my thumb there and make a turn like that. That's a bit awkward. So I'm going to put my thumb here instead, allowing me to turn my 4th over here. Then I need to go, but I've only got these 2 fingers, but my thumb, when that goes down, I can just bring those fingers down. So one maneuver allows you to set up for the next part. So here's 2 songs that have a similar kind of movement, but I'm going to approach the fingers a bit differently. So part of the bridge of Hey Jude goes. So for this, I'm going to do fingers 3 and 5. And then that leaves 2 and 4 free. And then that leaves 1 and 3 free. And then here, I've got no choice but to jump, but your thumb is a really good one to do that with, and 2 can just fall into place. That thumb also allows me to turn over to the next bit. So you might ask, why don't you do something like this? Now, it's not that you can't, it's just that with this, I can control the sound of the music much better. I can get that more legato feel where I'm connecting the notes really smoothly. Every time I lift up my hand, I'm going to hear that break in the notes. Now I'm exaggerating it there, but you can hear that breath in between every position. Whereas when I do it like this, I can control and connect those notes together much more effectively, giving you a much smoother sound. So be aware of that when you're playing, when you need to do that, when you need to control the sound of that as much as you can with your fingers, and when you don't need to, and that's where you could lift your hand up more if you need. Now the beginning of SOS has a similar movement in thirds from that F and A. I've done it slightly differently this time because there's a breath at a different point in the phrase. So here I've started the same with fingers 3 and 5, and then gone to 2 and 4, and then 1 and 3. But this time I haven't switched to 2 and jumped 1 down. This time I've lifted up and repositioned because that's the point where there's a breath. Breath. So I can reposition and then go to the same point I was. 3 and 5, 2 and 4, 1 and 3. So here's one that took me a few goes to figure out the way I wanted to play it. This is Karma Police, and it's the part of the riff that goes like this. So here I've gone finger 1, 2, 4, 5, and then I've gone 4 over 5, like that. So that is a bit fiddlier, but if your hand is really relaxed, you can get away with it. I could have gone 1, 2, and then done a turn there as well. I just kind of prefer the other way. You wouldn't normally want to do 4 over 5 if you were going to another white note. So if you were going, unless you're super, super relaxed and confident with it, normally that's not going to be the best thing. But here it seemed to work quite well, and it puts me in a good position to come down to my thumb. I can turn over really comfortably to this D flat, and then that allows me to bring my fingers under for this C. And then the other part of that riff does this. So here, normally with this kind of shape, I might do this. But then if I do that, my thumb being here forces me to use this finger here. And then I'd have to go 3, 4, 5, and then I start getting this stretch here and it feels really uncomfortable. So I decided to turn over the thumb, allowing me to bring my thumb under, which gives me way more stretch up to there. Now I can get 3 to 5 here, which is much more comfortable, and having 5 there allows me to come down on this C chord with fingers 1, 2, 4 really comfortably. So remember, it's all about using your fingers in a way that's going to allow you to maneuver from one bit to the other, and be really aware where hand positioning is going to help you. So move your hand over the top of the shape really comfortably. If your hand is back here, you're bringing this finger miles away from that note. So you need to be over the top of it so you can reach it. So what works best for you is normally the best option, but bear in mind that as a beginner, sometimes learning something new or discovering a new way of doing something can be really beneficial. It's going to help you become more versatile and expand your vocabulary. Sometimes I'll get my students to learn something in a specific way, even if it feels a little bit harder for them at that point, because with practice, it will feel just as comfortable, and then they have a new technique that they can call upon when they need it. Unless you're trying to do something specific, always make sure to ask yourself, is this the simplest way that I can do something? Can I break this down into 2 chunks as opposed to 3 chunks? Is there one other finger change that makes this maneuver slightly easier or more comfortable to play? But this one's really important. When you decide on a way to finger something, make sure that you stick to it when you're practicing it. If you keep chopping and changing which fingers you use, you're pretty much practicing different things. And checking that you're always doing it one way is going to help you develop the muscle memory and get to the point where you can play something easily without even thinking about the fingers. If you're a reader, you can pencil those finger numbers in on the sheet music. Now, when you get more experience, sometimes if you're playing something that's technically quite comfortable for you, you can just do it without thinking. But if I'm ever practicing something where I'm pushing myself, I will always do that. And as a beginner, you should probably try and do that a lot of the time. Try learning lots of different music in different styles that requires different kinds of movements on the piano. That way you're going to encounter different kinds of shapes and phrases that require different fingering that you can build up your vocabulary with. And a really, really great way of improving how quickly you can come up with these finger numbers is to start trying to improvise. Not like we did at the beginning where you're choosing fingers first, but you're choosing the notes first and then applying fingers to them. And make sure you're always looking ahead. So if you know you're going to use this block of notes, you're going to apply a block of fingers that's going to allow you to reach all of those notes. Chunking information and not thinking step by step is so important, and improvisation will force you to do that. It'll take a lot of practice, and it's good to start off slow, but it will really help your development. I have a worksheet available at the moment with graphics and finger numbers for all 12 major scales. And as I said, learning different scale shapes will help you learn some of the basics of fingering really well. And if you want to know some other really important reasons you should be learning your scales, I recommend watching this video here. Please give the video a like and let me know in the comments if it has been useful, as that really helps out the channel start to grow. And subscribe for more content that's going to help you develop your piano playing. Thanks for watching.